you remember me saying like, hey, you're going to take casualties? I don't know.
I do. Yeah. That happened right as we got there. Yep. We did a quick, so Elliott and I, when we got on the ground there, we got back over to Mark Lee, and we reorged really quick because we headed to Corregidor to go turn over Seth.
Yep.
So yeah, that happened really quick when we were there.
How was the turnover?
It was good. Yeah, I mean, it was a typical Seth turnover. Mm-hmm. You know, we walked right out into a gunfight. Like, what are we doing? We just went out and on the turnover op, we just went out, just blowing loopholes everywhere, just getting after it. And I remember we got back, we're like, what the hell just happened? Like, but it was a good turnover. You know, we got out and because you know none of us had been in any real gunfights up to that point, so that was a good way for us to like kind of break into it, and then they were gone. You know how fast that rip happened. We basically got a lay of the land one night, 2 nights, and it was like, okay, we're out. And you know, normally you have these long turnovers in places that doesn't even really matter, and this is one of them that really mattered. But then again, it's good to get that leadership, to get those people out of the way so you can start focusing on what's next.
Yeah, it definitely felt like we wanted to give you more turnover.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I remember, so I don't know, maybe a couple weeks before you guys started showing up, we were out doing some operation, and I was like out there with the platoon, and we're peeling back, and I'm looking at the platoon. You know, I happen to be like holding security or waiting for my turn, and I'm watching the platoon, and you could see like they're just freaking good. You know, everyone is just so in the game mode that, and everyone had learned a million little tiny lessons. Every guy had their own little thing that they'd figured out and shared, but it's just like the experience, there's no other way to get it, you know? And I just remember thinking like, oh, man, like just praying, like, please, like, let you guys get some time to kind of, get more experienced, you know, like let you get some time before shit hits the fan. And unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way. No. The enemy doesn't give a shit. In fact, the enemy knows, and they have their own little intel network, and they know, the new group took over. They did that shit all the time when the army would start to turn over with the Iraqis somewhere, or a new unit came in. It was like guaranteed you're getting hit. Yeah. And they did that when the 118AD showed up. Like new Humvees are out in town. Oh, that means there's new people. That means they don't know, they're not experienced yet, and they hit them. And I remember actually Leif was talking about it with me yesterday. You know, he was watching. You guys were getting ready to head over Corregidor, and you know, he was just telling me like how, Elliott, you were so like fired up because after however many years in the military, you're going to go and you're a sniper. You're going to go do 100%. You're going to go do the thing that we trained to do. And he was telling me he was watching you. You guys were getting ready to take your convoy over to Corregidor, and he's like watching you in the 50 cal turret and lock and loading he's just sitting there looking at you, and he was telling me he could see how freaking stoked you were, and he was super pumped, but at the same time he was just like, man, like it's the same feeling we all had. Like it's freaking it's real, man, and it's real. And just pray, like we're praying for you guys, like please just like let these guys get their bearings, and please let them, you know, you feel like no matter what we did in that short period of time, you just leave going, damn it, you know, just, you know, you're out in the streets in Ramadi, and I don't even know if you guys had the opportunity to get there. We were out there so much, it was like, we know exactly, you could just drop us off anywhere, and it'd be like getting dropped off and, you know, by my local freaking Starbucks. I think I know exactly where I am. I can walk home. I can go. But it takes a little bit of time to get that. But it's so useful to have that when you know exactly, like, you know, we knew the building numbers. You know, we know the building numbers without having to look at a battle map. That's just time. And it was definitely, it was hard to leave. And by the way, one interesting fact that I always like to point out, we were we had the Siege of Sodif came down to do a visit with us. We were like, had been there for maybe a month, and the Siege of Sodif came down to visit, and we were giving them a brief, and I was in the middle of telling the colonel that the guys out at Corregidor had done 23 straight operations and had been in enemy contact on 23 straight operations. And I'm not kidding, and I didn't plan this, but as I'm saying that, the TOC chief comes in and is like, hey boss, just a heads up, the guys in Corregidor are on a tick right now. And I'm like, Roger. And I looked at the colonel, I said, make that 24 straight. And because that's the level of enemy and contact that was happening. So for you guys to roll out with Seth on your first operation to get in a big gunfight, it's like, welcome to Corregidor, welcome to the Mulab.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. But you know, what you were saying is interesting. You know, the combat maturity, you know, that's something that you don't typically have, you know, unless you've been in a lot of combat. And even if you had, every conflict's different. So getting that and every deployment's different. Getting your bearings and getting that combat maturity, we just didn't have it. You know, we got there and you know, unfortunately these rips happen on a timeline. You know, it's the Air Force is directing, you know, how we're going to move our troops around. And this was a time that, you know, had we had the opportunity to push back and keep two platoons or two teams deployed at one time and have that overlap like by a month, you know, something, you know, I mean, that would have been important. But, you know, like team guys do, we figured it out. And luckily, you know, you learn those lessons because there's a lot of risk in learning those small little lessons, and there's no way to pass that, you know, that knowledge quickly, you know, especially in a couple day, you know, turnover. So, but you know, God loves frogmen, and you know, we were pretty lucky, you know, so we learned along the same lines.
And what was your op tempo like when those first out at Corregidor? We
just right turning and burning right into it. You know, one of the last things Seth told us, and he did just right on our turnover op. He's pointing on a map like Papa 10. He's like, where Mikey got killed, and that's where we got hurt. He's like, don't go there. He's like, Papa 10. He's like, that's bad. He goes, unless you want to go there. You know, it is like such a Seth thing to say. You know, he's like, don't go there. It's bad. Unless you want to go there, then go there. It's gonna be good. You know. So the next time we went in there was when we got hurt. So that was definitely a gnarly little area.
What was so like how many ops did you guys think you did between when you landed and November 19th? Probably like 10, 12, 15, like a bunch. Yeah. So you guys were racking them up.
Yeah. Because, you know, sometimes you go direct action into an Overwatch. So, you know, it's like multiple operations going on. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this operation that's the subject of the movie. And if you haven't gone to see the movie, go see the movie. Go see it while it's in the theaters.
Yeah, for sure. IMAX.
It is. I didn't get to do the IMAX thing. Maybe I'll try and find that.
So tonight. I actually went with my wife and watched it on IMAX when it came out. Totally different than seeing it, you know, in a regular theater. But theater's still a million times better than on TV.
Normal. You guys are planning for it. Planning cycle goes. You probably aren't. That's the other thing. And some people talk to me about the movie. They're like, well, it just kind of started and ended. I'm like, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's exactly right. This is one day it's one day. And there was many, 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 many days like this.
Yeah.
You guys do the nighttime insert, nighttime infiltration, you know, and this was something that was kind of new at the time, like going into a building, you know, what we learned in the 90s, you know, you're breaching everything. And even up until that time, a lot of people, everything that you go in, you're going to smash the door and you're going to kick the door in. And we probably turned over with you guys. Hey, listen, if your Iraqi soldiers are good for anything, it's they know how to get in and out of these houses. So they know how to open the doors. They know how to deal with, you know, what's going to be in the courtyard and all that stuff. And that's portrayed pretty cool in the film.
But we didn't start off that way. We got on the ground there and just like always, you know, we're like, hey, let's blow this front door through the house at 3,000 miles an hour. And then we learned real quick, like, hey, did you check to see if the door's open? You know, it's like there's a lot better way. But again, that's that operational maturity.
Yeah.